Hello everyone, we can see that there's still a couple of attendees joining us at the moment, so we're just going to hold off for another 2 minutes before we begin. Okay, so I think we're ready to begin now. We can see that people are nearly all joined. So we'll just begin. So hello everyone and welcome to the first Locate Locum Permanent Positions webinar. My name's Lauren and I'm the Digital Marketing Specialist for Locate Locum. So this webinar is an interesting one as it's about how to map out your future and it'll hopefully provide you with the information and the tools that you need for career success. We're really privileged today to be joined by Alexander Daglian, who is the owner of Alexander's Pharmacy based in Wrexham in Wales. We will also be joined by Melissa, who is our recruitment consultant here at Locate Locum. So just before we move on to the agenda for this evening's webinar, we just have a couple of housekeeping rules. If any of you need to leave this webinar at any point, that is completely fine. We will send a recording of the full webinar tomorrow via email to all of you. But please do stay on for the questions at the end, as usually from the questions you can get some really great insights. A huge thank you for everyone who was able to register and sign up to this webinar. We're grateful to have over 100 participants joining us, so it seems to be quite a popular one, which is great. Hopefully you'll be able to get some value from this webinar. I think the resources that we put together and the insights that we're going to go into will hopefully be something that you can take away with you and utilize going forward. Okay, so we'll just move on now to the agenda. Okay, so let's take a look at the agenda for today's webinar and what we'll be talking through. So we've got pharmacy pathways, which Melissa is going to take us through today, and she'll be talking through which one is the best fit for you. What knowledge and skills should you invest in? Options and career progression. How to market yourself and market yourself effectively. Then we'll move across to Alexander Daglian, who will take us through interview techniques, and he'll just talk a little bit through his experiences as well. And then we're back to Melissa, who will take us through knockback and recovery and how to get over job rejection. And then we'll move on to a quick Q&A. So if you can see on the right hand of your screen, there's a little question box. So please do feel free throughout this webinar to, pop some questions in and, we'll answer them at the end. Please just mark whether, you'd like them to be for Alexander or if you'd like for Melissa to answer them. So this webinar is going to be a pretty fairly interactive webinar. So I'm just going to launch a poll just to get an idea as to where everyone is from. I usually give this about 30 seconds and then we close it off, show the results, and this can give you and us an overview as to where everyone is from. So we'll just launch a poll here. There we go. So we'll just give you a couple of minutes just to vote where you are all from. You can see we're nearly at 90% here. Okay. So it seems that everyone has voted. And we'll just share the results. So most of you are joining us today from England and some from Wales, and then we've got other. So welcome all of you. We'll just do another poll as well, just to find out what everybody's roles are and positions. So you just want to vote whether or not you're a qualified pharmacist or you're a technician, dispenser, pre-reg. And we'll just give a couple of minutes for that as well. I think the majority of people have voted. We're sitting at 90%, so we'll just close it off in just a couple of seconds. Okay. So that's quite interesting. So we can see that, there's a nice mix of people on the webinar today. So that's great. It's really interesting to see that we've got a real broad mix with us today. Okay, so. Okay, brilliant. So I'm now going to pass across to Melissa, our recruitment consultant. And Melissa is just going to take us through pharmacy pathways, options, and career progression. So it's just over to you now, Melissa.
Thank you for that, Lauren. So hi everyone, thank you very much for attending this evening's webinar. I hope you find it beneficial and that it provides you with some useful information on the world of healthcare recruitment. So my name is Melissa and I am a recruitment consultant within Locata Locum. Locata Locum's main goal is to mobilise the world's healthcare workforce, and we do this in several different ways. But one of the ways that we do this would be our permanent division, and that's what I currently manage at the moment. So I've been here with Locata Locum about a year now, and it's my job to find the right fit for clients and candidates. Before Locata Locum, I was an in-house recruitment manager for a catering company, and I've been in recruitment now for about 10 years. So that seems like a really long time, but it has honestly flown by. And it is purely down to the fact that I love recruitment and I love what I do, and you never know what each day is going to bring. And each day does bring new exciting challenges. You could one minute be looking for a pharmacy manager for a remote part of Scotland, or you could help a candidate with a relocation across the country. But I suppose my main role within Locata Locum is to talk to the likes of independent pharmacies, chain pharmacies, pharmaceutical industries daily, just to discuss their recruitment needs and to source the right candidate for them. But I also work with candidates on a daily basis who are maybe just starting out and looking for a new role, or those who've been with an employer for years and are just looking for a change. So I think the world of healthcare is ever changing and very vast, and it has so many different routes to take. And for that reason, I know looking for a new role can be quite daunting, which is why I'm here. So my main focus is to make it less daunting and ultimately find you that right role. And I hope this webinar provides some insight into the world of healthcare recruitment and provide you some helpful tips along the way. So just moving on to pathways then, I think one of the main challenges about the healthcare industry, and in particular the pharmaceutical industry, is that there's so many routes that you as a pharmacist can take. And I know especially when you're newly qualified or you're looking for a new role, this can look very scary. When I first started in Locata Locum and looked at the sheer amount of job titles that pharmacists held, it was so hard trying to figure out what each role was. And I think that's also what makes this industry exciting, is there's just so many different options for you and career paths for you to take. So we've looked at these and tried to break them down into a few options to give you a bit of an idea of the different routes that you can take. So first off would be community, and pharmacists here tend to work in pharmacies or health centres, but can also visit patients at home or in residential homes. You would also have retail pharmacies in supermarkets or high streets, but in any of these different variations, you will primarily be responsible for dispensing and distributing medicine. You will be customer facing, and primarily you will be involved in maintaining and improving people's health, supplying prescription medicines, and to provide support and advice to patients with minor ailments and any queries. Community roles do hold a high level of responsibility, but also are vastly available and very, very rewarding. They do offer great career progression as well, which we will cover a little bit later on. Here at Locata Locum, we would have a vast scope of community roles within not only smaller independents, but we also work with larger chains as well. So we offer that variety to help you find that right fit for you as a candidate. Another route would be the hospital pharmacy route. You will see a pattern in that all pharmacy roles have patients at the centre of them. And as a hospital pharmacist, you will not only be an expert in the field of medicine, but you will also understand how they are used and the effects in the human body. You would assess patients' needs and dispense prescriptions, much like in community, and whilst the delivery of medication is a major part of this role, there's also so much more to it. So hospital pharmacists would often monitor the effects of medication they prescribe, and they counsel their patients on any effects. You would also recommend administration routes and dosages depending on individual needs. As with community, you are patient facing and will be a great source of advice for the patients in what can be quite a scary time for them. In this role, you work closely with nurses or doctors, and so communication and clear handovers are key, with drug charts providing a vital source of information. But this role would also need you to monitor the supply of all medicines used, and you would be in charge of purchasing the likes of stock. This role also offers great career progression, and you would generally start at a band 6, but can increase to band 7, which is managerial, or band 8, which are consultant roles. Another branch that you could take would be the industrial or medical research route, which would mean you would work in companies that manufacture medicines, but also you'd be involved in initial design, to public launch, and sales. In medical research, you would investigate the underlying basis of diseases, conduct research, and investigate. And these roles would suit someone who's looking for something maybe a bit more behind the scenes, and someone who would enjoy using technologies to develop medicines for patients. This role is more project driven and would involve more of the analytics, toxicology, data science background, and again offers that fantastic career progression, and it's something a little bit different. And I suppose just touching on the last option there, just briefly, this would be something that maybe you haven't thought of, and this would be the teaching or the academic side. This route allows you the opportunity to publish any research and support future members of the profession, but it also gives you the option to practice as well and retain the ability to practice. So this role will be perfect for those who want to educate the next generation and is available throughout universities and other institutions. And whilst a move to academic can be challenging, it would offer substantial job satisfaction. This would be more suitable to someone who has been practicing for a longer period of time and is looking into something just a little bit different. You do have to be incredibly focused and committed for this role, as it is heavily regulated, but it provides new exciting challenges every day. But I hope this gives you an insight into different parts of the ever-expanding world of healthcare and some of the routes that would be available to you. And whilst it's not an extensive list by any means, I hope it gives a good overview into the different roles that are available. So just moving on then in terms of knowledge and skills. So while standard practice is for all pharmacists to have a Master's of Pharmacy and a valid registration with a GPHC, PSI, PSNI or equivalent, there are different skills that you can invest in to make yourself stand out from the crowd. So whilst a lot of these skills will be offered by many employers as part of training and development, you're also able to avail of these yourself. So flu and travel vaccinations, for example, are becoming increasingly common and they're relatively cheaper accreditations to obtain, but they do give you that advantage over other applicants. So these courses would usually provide pharmacists with the knowledge and skills to vaccinate. It covers any backgrounds of vaccines, any current issues, legal aspects, correct handling and storage, and any reactions that may occur. So it gives you a great knowledge and increases your skills as a pharmacist. Clinical assessment is another course that you can do online at a relatively cheaper price that can offer as either a refresher or a new course for those in healthcare who assess patients. It would cover things such as basic observations, any normal ranges, causes for normal readings, and it would look at things such as history taking, red flags, and also when it's appropriate to refer on to an alternative healthcare provider. This would be a brilliant course for anyone that's considering a role in the clinical world. Independent prescribing is one that I'm asked about a lot, and it's a course that a lot of pharmacists would consider after they've been practicing for a while. It would offer you the opportunity and training to become an independent prescriber, and the course, while a little on the dearer side, does teach you how to apply core skills in history taking, physical examination, and clinical reasoning. You would usually have to have your valid registration as well as 2 years post-registration patient-focused experience, and have an identified area of clinical practice with 1 year's experience in this area. Lastly, you would also need to have an agreement with an experienced doctor to act as your DMP within this time. After completion, you would be eligible to register as an independent prescriber with the GPHC, and this would expand your practice and give you the knowledge to become responsible and accountable for the assessment of patients with any diagnosed or undiagnosed conditions. and to make decisions about their clinical management, including prescribing within your clinical competence. Other than those mentioned, there are many training courses that you can avail of yourself or through your employer, giving you a great opportunity to keep expanding your skill set, even to cover those unexpected skills needed, such as COVID vaccine training. The world of healthcare is ever growing, and there are many courses to utilise to constantly grow and increase your knowledge and ultimately make you more attractive to an employer. So just moving on then. Here at Located Locum, we primarily recruit for community pharmacy, and we have seen a huge increase in the need for pharmacists in this particular part of healthcare. Within the world of community, you have so many different routes that you can take, and I just want to look briefly at the types of career progression that may be available to you within community. You could start off as a technician or dispenser or work over the counter, and this would give you a good idea of what a community pharmacy would be like. If you enjoy this, you may think, okay, maybe I'd like to look at being a pharmacist. And so once you've completed your qualifications and pre-registration, you can then practice as a pharmacist in either a chain, any independents or retail. Again, there's so many different routes you can take. And from there, you can grow within your career and look at management or supervisor roles, become a superintendent or branch into PCN. Again, it's just limitless. And Alexander, who will be talking a little bit later in this webinar, does pride himself on giving all of his staff the skills and training to ultimately own their own pharmacy, should that be what they wish to do. And here at Located Locum, we can support you into any of these roles and find that right career fit for you. So right now, I'm just going to pass back over to Lauren, who will take us through another poll.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Melissa. Some really great insights there, especially with regards to training and more specifically flu jab training. I know in the UK at the moment it is almost essential to have this as we move into the flu season. So we are going to share some resources at the end for anybody that is looking into any additional accreditations or wants to do any additional courses. We'll provide you with some resources where you can look into that further. But for now, it's that time again. So we're going to do another poll. And this one is, are you interested in a career in community pharmacy? So we'll just give this a couple of minutes. Some of you might already be in community pharmacy. Some of you might not, but it's just really just to give us a general overview of who's on the webinar today. Okay, we've 70% voted, so we'll just give it another couple of minutes and then we'll close it. Okay, we'll close that now. That looks like everybody's voted. We'll just share the results. Okay, so as we expected, most people in the webinar today are interested in a career in community pharmacy, so that's interesting. So we'll just move on ahead here. I'll pass back to Melissa, who will talk to us about how to market yourself effectively in order to get yourself an interview. So straight back over to you, Melissa.
Thank you very much, Lauren. It's interesting to see that a lot of people in this webinar would be interested in community. And I think marketing yourself via a CV is something that we all do when we apply for a role. So if you're on a job site and you're looking for a new challenge and you see a perfect role, cross your fingers, you send your CV and then you're rejected. So how do we stop this happening? Well, we can't stop this happening every time. However, we can take steps so that we come across as a better candidate for this role. So I've seen a lot of CVs in my time, and I do mean a lot of CVs. And within any CV, there's good parts and there's bad parts. And whilst no one is perfect, we can make small changes that have a huge effect on our appearance as a candidate within our CV. So have a look at this bad CV, for example. What makes it so terrible? Well, it's not terrible, but from an employer's point of view, we do look at certain elements of the CVs right away. So the first thing that catches my eye is the personal details. If we look, there's no name. So how do we know who they are? Their email address is not professional, and I'm sure we've all had an old email address years ago, but make a professional one for any work communications. The address layout, again, is not greatly laid out, and things like date of birth, nationality, marital status, they're all optional information, which are usually best left out unless there's a benefit to their inclusion. Next would be the personal statement. It's very vague and it's not very specific, and it doesn't really stand out or grab your attention. So employers will look at hundreds of these CVs every day, and we want to stand out and market ourselves to the best of our ability. Just looking at the education and work experience, I get asked a lot about this and what goes first on your CV. So there's no real rule of thumb as to what goes first, but a little tip is to look at the first essential criteria of a job description. So if it's a qualification, put your education first, and if it's must have X amount of years of experience, put your work experience first. The CV, it's not great. We as employers like to have things easily laid out as we look. So we see so many CVs. So first it needs to be in chronological order with your most recent position at the top and to omit any outdated education. There's also no expansion on important education, i.e. the degree. So for example, any specific modules that you may have carried out that would be relevant to the role would be great to put in here. If you look at the employment history, it should have a format. So it should have a name of a company, a start and end date, a job title, and some main tasks. Omit irrelevant work history and make sure layout, font type, and size are the same to keep consistency. Calibri size 12 is a great option for CVs. If you're looking at hobbies and interests, employers don't want to read about hobbies that don't add value to your application. So make sure if you put this section in, it's all relevant to the role that you're applying for. With any references, as standard at Located Locum, we would take these out when we represent you. However, if you do include them yourself, they do need the full name, the position held, and always ask for permission. So if we look over to the next example of an excellent CV, you can see it's a bit better laid out. It's got the same format throughout, and it's got a punchy personal statement tailored to the role. It's got a well laid out education section with enough relevant detail, and it's got well laid out employment history, which gives the relevant experience and information needed. The hobbies are applicable to the job, and there's full reference information available. It is quite a common misconception that you only need one CV. In effect, your CV should be tailored to every job that you apply for. This shows the employer that you're invested in them, and in turn, it makes you stand out to them. And I know that writing a CV, it's not easy. And so at the end of this webinar, we're offering CV writing support to anyone who needs it. And Lauren will provide more information on this at the end of the webinar. So I'm just going to pass back over to Lauren now.
Thank you very much for that, Melissa. Yes, we do have a lot of permanent positions available at the moment. You know, you can view these through our website, or I mean, you can contact Melissa and she can, you know, explain what's available at the moment. But yes, we are offering a one-to-one CV writing clinic. Tomorrow we are going to send out an email. It's going to include the recording of this webinar, and it's also going to include a link which you can go and submit your CV to. From this, Melissa will then be able to pick up on it, and she can go through it and contact you via phone or email, whichever you prefer, and she can just go through it with you to help you, you know, improve it for whatever it is that you're looking to get into, which, judging by these polls, is community pharmacy. And if you're already in community pharmacy, you know, she has seen a lot of CVs, so she can help you improve your CV if you're looking to progress further. So yes, so we're on to another poll now. Are you interested in being contacted about permanent positions by Melissa? So I'll just launch this poll, and we'll just give it a couple of seconds before we close it off. Okay, we've nearly got everybody voted. Okay, we'll just share the results. Okay, so that's interesting. So a good 82% of you said yes. So after this webinar, I will, you know, send your details across to Melissa, for those of you who voted yes, and you know, she'll send you an email, and you know, you can pick up with her then. So we'll just move on now with the remainder of the webinar. So I'm now going to pass across to Alexander Daglian, who is the MD of Alexander's Pharmacy. So he has 3 pharmacies in Wales, in the Wales region, and I mean, he's an employer, so please again make use of the question box if you have any questions throughout his presentation for him specifically as an employer, then he can certainly answer that for you at the end. So I'll just pass across to you now, Alexander. Just to go through your part, just a wee second. Hello.
Hello everyone.
Hello.
Melissa, how are you?
Very good. Now, yes, if you just want to go on ahead with your presentation.
Certainly. Hello everyone. Now, as an employer, let me introduce myself. I'm the founder of Alexander's Pharmacies, which I established in 1994. We're a group of 3 pharmacies. We also have a pharmacy online company, alexanderspharmacy.co.uk, and also I'm a fellow of the Royal Pharmaceutical Society. So I've been in community pharmacy all my career, since 1986, when I first qualified. Now, what are employers looking for? When looking for a particular candidate, an employer is looking for honesty, integrity, and professionalism, with the candidate displaying patient focus and good people skills. When I say patient focus, I mean willing to go the extra mile to put the patient first. So, for example, it's the little things that make a huge difference. For example, when it comes to 5:30 and you're locking up the pharmacy and a patient comes with a prescription for an antibiotic, by staying a little bit later, another 10-15 minutes later, and supplying that prescription, it means a great deal. It means a great deal to the patient, because obviously they can have the treatment and not necessarily start their treatment and not necessarily be in pain that evening. But it means they go home and they tell their family, their friends and their neighbours that they have a really good pharmacy in their community because you were there for them when they needed you. So it's the little things like that that make a difference. For an employer, it might be simply working half an hour extra on your lunch break, perhaps at Christmas time, just to clear the backlog of prescriptions and ensure that the pharmacy is functioning safely and efficiently. The pharmacist employers is looking for a candidate to always be polite and helpful to patients. So a good philosophy to always have is for the idea that the patient should never leave empty-handed. So, for example, when a patient leaves their doctor's surgery, they may pass 2 or 3 pharmacies on the way to your pharmacy, to their pharmacy, the pharmacist that they like. And when they've passed 2 or 3 other chemists to get to you, they should always be rewarded by the fact that they don't leave empty-handed. So, for example, if a patient comes to you and their prescription has not arrived at the pharmacy, take time out, even if you're busy, to ring the doctors and ask them to phone the prescription through or fax it through. Or if there's a query or a problem with the prescription, again, consult the prescriber and so that you can clarify things and provide that prescription safely and legally. Also, if a patient comes to buy something and it's not in stock, recommend an alternative. Or if they still want that particular item, then take a deposit, order it, and assure them it'll be in there that afternoon or the next day for them. And as I said, sometimes people need their medication and they can't come back or they can't wait. Offer the delivery service if that's something that your pharmacy provides. Always try never to leave the patient leave empty-handed. So they're always rewarded by coming to you. Now, as an employer, when looking at a candidate's CV, then I like to know that they have relevant experience and have stayed in their place of work for generally about 4 years or more. So I can invest in them and grow my business by employing a stable and committed applicant. So why do I say this 4 years or more? Because if I look at a CV of a candidate and I see they've only stayed in a place 1, 2, 3 years, I get the feeling that they might be joining me as a stepping stone because they've used previous employers as a stepping stone. And if I can look at a candidate's CV and say that they've stayed in their positions for 4 or 5 years or more, then I know that I've got a stable employee. I know that I can invest in that employee's training, especially bearing in mind it's going to take you at least a year to learn your job, meet the community, get to know people, and form a good bond with your team, your staff members. And also, not only do I know that I can invest in that applicant's training, but there'll be a reward for it for the business. And it also means that if I've got a good team in place that are happy and loyal to the company, I can then invest in growing and expanding the company, which is what employers always have an eye to grow their business. Now, experience. Employers don't mind too much if a candidate does not have too much experience, because as an employer, we realize that although they may have worked at another pharmacy in the same position, they're still going to gain the relevant experience when they actually come and work for me, for their new employer, because obviously each pharmacy is different, the communities are different people, different company procedures, different clinical services provided by different companies. So the employer knows that as long as he's got a good and capable applicant, he can train that person and provide the experience that that person requires to do their job well in-house. When interviewing, then firstly, I myself like to look through the CV, and as Melissa said, a well-presented CV that flows, that's relevant, makes a difference. Then I like to do a video interview to get a feel for the person, and finally a face-to-face interview. At the interview, I want to know why they want to join my company and their ideas to grow the business and improve patient care. So what does that mean? It means employers are looking for somebody that's friendly, happy, with good communication skills. That means listening to patients and to their team of staff, as well as communicating their skills and needs as the pharmacist manager. A good simple tip is to always get in the habit of saying good morning or hello to every patient who walks in the pharmacy. Hello, can I help you? I'm the pharmacist. Simple as that. What that does, it immediately allows you to engage the patient. Sometimes patients come in pain, miserable because they're stressed, unhappy about something, but you as the pharmacist immediately set the tone and the agenda by a smile, a greeting, and letting them know who you are, and it forms that bond and sets the tone, so that they know you're there to help them. And it allows you then to welcome them, but also get to know them. So always smile and always greet them. Be patient that you see. Now, the next thing is obviously if the candidate is successful, then it comes to salary negotiations. So salary negotiation should be realistic. So the candidate should have realistic expectations according to the current market, with the candidate showing commitment to the job and displaying relevant experience in their history of work. Now, when I say be realistic and understand the market conditions, the chemist and druggist do an annual survey, which they divide into regions. So whichever region of the United Kingdom you wish to go and work in community pharmacy, you can look up and see the salary for a pharmacist manager in that region. Also, by being realistic, it gives the employer leeway to set your basic salary at a given level, but also it allows the employer leeway to provide you with clinical services, service bonuses. As the pharmacy contract moves from purely dispensing into more and more clinical services to be carried out at the pharmacy, the NHS sets targets for each pharmacy to achieve in the number of clinical services they provide. And the employer wants his staff to be motivated to achieve those targets and provide those clinical services. So they do like to provide a bonus if it's affordable. So if the basic salary is not too high, they can have then the flexibility to top up that employee's salary with clinical service bonuses. And also the employer likes to have the leeway whereby he can review the salary of a pharmacist in his employ annually, so that if it's affordable and not too far above the market salary range, it allows the employer each year to review and increase the pharmacist's manager's salary, and therefore retain a good and loyal pharmacist manager employee. So as I said, realistic salary expectations when it comes to basic salary for the region that you're in the United Kingdom you're going to work. And as I said, many employers do like to provide clinical service bonuses for the clinical services to be achieved as set by the NHS, and to review and increase your salary each year and retain good pharmacist managers within their company. So the employer is looking for a person who is not just qualified to do the job, but also have a character that is liked by people, and also ideas to make the working operations more efficient and to grow and expand the business. So he's looking for not only the right candidate in terms of qualifications and experience, but also for the personality of that individual and their character and ideas. Okay, it's been good to tell you the employer's perspective on this. So now I'd like to hand you back to Lauren.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Alexander. That was really great. It's interesting to hear an employer's perspective on what you look for when you're hiring, and hopefully there's a few pointers in there that some of our audience can take away. As Alexander has said, there is resources available to help you with your salary negotiations, and you can find this on the Chemist and Druggist website. So I'm just going to hand back now to Melissa, who is going to take us through Knockback Recovery. It can be disheartening being turned down for a position. So Melissa is just going to go over some techniques and takeaways on this. So it's back over to you, Melissa.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Alexander. So yes, as Lauren says, it can be hard not to take a job rejection personally, but it does happen to everyone at some point. Job rejection is actually a positive thing, and it does help you learn from your experiences so that you can do better next time. So we put together just a few pointers to help you secure the right role in the future. So always ask for feedback. It's always important to ask for feedback as it allows you to grow and learn for the next time. So always be sure to thank the interviewer when you get a rejection. Employers never like rejecting candidates from the process and are usually more than happy to provide any feedback to you in order to improve your future chances. So be critical. Always challenge yourself and consider if you're applying for the right role for you at the current point in your career. So applying for a superintendent role as newly qualified is not going to work. If you haven't made it to any interview stages, consider if your CV needs reviewed or updated, and it's important to always tailor your CV to the job description to reflect how your experiences make you a good fit for the role. So self-reflection, practice self-reflection and don't take it personally. Everyone does get rejected, and it is important to take this opportunity to learn and to grow. Try considering how you present yourself to others and think about how you've answered key questions and whether you highlighted your experiences in the most favourable light. So a great technique to use here would be the STAR technique for any questions. And this would be answering any questions with a situation, a task, an action, and a result. And this ensures that you've answered the question effectively, and they act as handy prompts within the interview. So again, at the end of this webinar, we will provide you with information on how to book in some career guidance time with myself and to see how we can support you in securing that perfect role. But other than that, it would be keep positive as well. So don't let it put you off your job search. Use your network for new positions and network proactively. Always be mindful that to make it to an interview is further than what others might have reached. Maintain momentum. So if you enjoyed learning about the company, don't be afraid to ask them to keep you in mind for future roles. It is easy to put your job search on hold whilst you wait to hear back from your dream job, but it's important to keep the job search in motion. Always be focused on what the next opportunity will bring, and remember, if it's for you, it won't pass you. So every interview and knockback gives you experience, but if you are unsuccessful within a role with us at Located Locum, we will help support you with another application and try and support in those areas that maybe have let you down. So as part of our interview preparation, we provide you with all the information you need for interviews to help prepare. This would include company information, typical questions, interview techniques, and anything else that would help you along the way, as we know that interviews can be quite daunting. Don't forget, we are there to support you, so don't be afraid to ask any questions along the way. I'm just going to hand back over to Lauren for another poll.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that, Melissa. I promise this is our final poll, and it's just basically asking you if you're interested in booking in for a consultation to discuss your CV and available permanent positions that we have on offer with Melissa. So I'm just going to launch the poll now and give you a couple of seconds just to answer it. So that should be it now. Okay, brilliant. I can see that we're nearly there. We're nearly at 90. Yeah, we're coming towards 100%. Okay, so we're just going to close it in a couple of seconds. And just share the results. Okay, brilliant. So most of you are interested. That's great. So Melissa will be in touch with you in the coming days. I will get those details across to her and she can contact you further on that. So just some resources to access. We've got the Located Locum Help Centre. So some of you that's on this webinar at the minute, you might actually, locum with us and you're just interested in, improving your CV, that's fine. But for anyone else, it's a free help centre. So, please do avail of it. That's the web link for it there. So you can just type in any question into it and it should be able to give you an answer. We've got some stuff there on, accreditations and training courses and so on. For training courses, for training courses and accreditations. Just put a link there to the NPA website. So if anybody's interested in any, CPD, there's quite a few courses on there for you to look at. And then we have our CV one-to-one feedback clinic. That's the link for it for anybody who wants to submit their CV, which will go directly to Melissa. Or you can just wait until tomorrow and, you can submit your CV through the email. So we'll just move on now just to the Q&A. So we have a couple of questions here, actually. Melissa, I think this one's probably for you. This is Ryan. He wants to know how quickly the interview process usually takes when applying through you.
Okay, so usually within healthcare, it's very fast moving. So from experience, I find that once we get a CV over to the client, they usually review and provide the feedback within, I'd say, about 48 hours. Any interviews are then usually set up for about 3 to 5 working days after, and then the decision's made quite quickly. So it'll either be on the day of your interview or as soon as all the interviews are carried out, they'll make a decision and they'll come back to us very quickly. So it is very, very fast moving.
Okay, I actually have another one coming in here from Connor. He wants to know how Locate a Locum can support him through the process, or what support we offer.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So when you're first in contact with me, I would have a discussion with you. So it'd be a discussion in terms of what roles you're considering, and we'd advise if we have a good fit that's active at the moment. If we don't, we will talk about what we will do to get you that right fit. So we then format your CV, and we format it depending on clients' preference. Sometimes clients prefer different layout and things, so we then communicate with you kind of every step of the way. We arrange interviews with you at any convenient times, and we hopefully then let you know of an offer and the good news. So I do negotiate as well contract issues with the client on your behalf, so any salary queries or benefit queries, and I always pop you a message on the first day to say good luck. And just because you're in the role, it doesn't mean that you can't still say hello. Quite a lot of my candidates always keep coming back and keep in touch as well. So even after you've been placed, keep in touch with us.
Okay, and I have one here as well. Melissa, I think this one's for you. You're getting all the questions tonight. Do you recruit for quality assurance control pharmacists?
It's not something that we actively recruit for at the moment. However, as I say, we work with candidates to find that right role. So if that's the role that you're really interested in, we would then look at kind of clients in your area and look and see if we can get that good fit for you. So it's not something that we actively have, but it's something that we would certainly work with you on your behalf to help you into.
Okay, and we'll just have probably enough time for one or two more. I've one here from Kira. Why is a permanent job more beneficial than being a locum?
Yeah, I mean, I get asked that a lot, but permanent roles, they do offer great benefits and stability. So I suppose locum, you have the flexibility and you've got a good hourly rate, but permanents have things like sick pay and bonus schemes and staff discounts, paid holidays, and some of them have health plans. There's even relocation packages on offer, so you can move to a sunnier part of the UK, but it all just depends on the role. But they do all come with competitive salaries and great benefits, and I suppose stability is the main thing there.
Okay, brilliant. I just have one. We've just got time for just about one more. Alexander, this is for you. Jake wants to know, how did you get to where you are now? So how did you start off, or where did you study?
I studied at the University of Bradford, and I worked for 1.5 years as a relief pharmacist manager for Rowland's Pharmacies. And then I went traveling around the world and worked in Australia, registered there with a pharmacy board, and worked in New Zealand, and then carried on traveling. So that was for 2.5 years. And then I came back to the UK, and I worked as a locum nationally, and I learned a lot. I then became a pharmacist manager for Lloyd's Chemist, and then I emigrated to Australia to work as a pharmacist, but I always wanted my own pharmacy practice. So I came back to the UK in 1994, and I opened my first pharmacy, and then my second pharmacy 6 years later, then my third pharmacy 5 years later. And now I employ 20 members of staff, and we hold the medical records for over 34,000 patients. And anybody who's listening, they can do it if they want to. And coming back to the question earlier on when someone asked, you know, why should I give up locum work to become a pharmacist manager in a permanent position? Well, firstly, everybody's going to consider their lifestyle and what suits their lifestyle. And there comes a time when you want stability and paid holidays and to know that you've got a pension. But also, it's career progression, because once you've learned and know your job as a locum, it's then good to learn and know your job as a pharmacist manager to progress to area manager, superintendent, or to be a pharmacy owner. So it's that progression in your career, and I think that's important so that you never become bored, because your career changes and evolves as the years go by, and makes pharmacy rewarding.
Thank you very much for that, Alexander. That was really helpful. I just have one more question for you, and I think we'll just wrap up. I have someone here that wants to know, is it better, in your opinion, as a pharmacist, to do your vaccine training online or face-to-face?
I don't think it really matters, because both of them would have been investigated and checked thoroughly before they'd be licensed. So I think that is really a personal preference. I myself like to do it face-to-face, but you know, it really is a personal preference. But there are more and more clinical services, and pharmacists now are not just dispensers but clinicians, and it really makes the job a lot more interesting.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Alexander. Okay, well, thank you everybody that took the time out of their evening to attend this webinar. We're just going to wrap up now and close off. I just want to say thank you very much, Alexander, for joining us and for providing us with such great insight, especially not even from just an employer perspective, but just on a more personal level as well. I think hopefully some of you are able to take something away from this. Thanks as well, Melissa, for going through, the recruitment aspect and pharmacy pathways and stuff too. So, and thank you to all of you for joining, and we hope to see you on our next webinar. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.